Alright, I wanted to do a quick video that is explaining, basically giving a review and a comparison of 3 of the different offshore tackle line releases. I'm working off of an OR12 planer board, and I'm comparing the OR19 orange release that comes with the offshore tackle planer boards to the OR18 black snapper release, and comparing that to the newer OR39 Sam's Pro release by Silverhorde. So the thesis statement up front is that each of these is an excellent release, but they've all got different pros and cons, and hopefully this video will help you decide which is the best for you. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit torn, especially between the 2 black releases for what I do, and the main thing that where I want to get is that all my boards have the same release, so if I have a friend out on the boat with me, I don't have to explain 3 different ways of rigging up the line. So let's start with the OR19 orange release. This comes on all the boards, and so that you know, I use a braided fishing line, and my go-to is a 20 or 30 pound test multicolored braid. And so these orange clips do okay with that in the beginning of the season, but after about a season, the pads either wear out or they lose their tension, and you're out on the water and everything's going great, and all of a sudden this board starts releasing without a fish on, and it can be the most frustrating thing. I have 3 boards on each side. You get the outside board out and it trips, and all of a sudden you should be fishing, and now you're re-rigging lines, and it really is a pain in the butt. Now, if you get in that situation, one quick workaround that I've learned is that you can take your line. Let's see if we can make this a little more in focus. Huh? Let's get these out. You can take your line and wrap it in such a way that it won't release. Again, it's not ideal, and it's a little bit tricky when you're out there. But if you basically make a loop like this and then cinch it down in those jaws, it will get you through a trip. Well, that didn't work, but you get the idea. I open that up. Again, this, you can see what a pain in the butt this is, and you don't want to be doing this when you're out on the water. Rigging up your lines should be a pretty fast and easy thing, but you can see that that's kind of looped around there like that, and sometimes that's enough to make it work without tripping. Just don't get it back there in that crack, or else it won't let go. I've read some about other guys making a twist and a loop, and I don't understand that. If you're aware of that or have a link to it, please put it in the comments. I'd love to see that. The other thing about these, and you know, I'm 40, I've got a little bit of arthritis in my hands. I got Rocky Mountain spotted fever a while back, and especially if it's cold, it can be difficult to get the finger tension with one line. You know, you're reeling in a rod, this comes in, your hands are cold. Sometimes it could be tough to get that to release. But they're good clips, and if you're not using braid, they might be all you need. Fine clip, but I am moving away from these, and currently I'm torn between the Sam's Pro release and the OR18 snapper release, and each has a pro and a con, and I'll try to explain those to you here. Let's start with the OR18 black snapper release. This is a really, really simple design. Now, some guys don't want their planer boards to release, and they want it to hold on. And if you're one of those people, this is probably the clip for you, because it's a cam. Again, there's no pinching like that orange one, and you can either rock it back to lock so that you can let the line come out the side and release, or you can cam lock it forward, and that pin right there is going to keep your line from letting go. So if you are one who likes to reel the board to the boat without it letting go, this is probably the clip for you. Also, of the 3 clips, this is probably the easiest one to use because, again, you don't need that finger strength like what I talked about before. And if you have a bunch of buddies in your boat and you have a lot of different people fishing, this is probably the simplest one to show somebody how to use. Now, like the orange clips, the pads, there's one pad in there, and it can wear out, and you can replace it. Now, I haven't had this one long enough to know that yet, but I'll be honest, that's one of the drawbacks here, because if I haven't fished since last year and I get these out, now I'm out on the water and the pad wears out, that's going to be really, really frustrating. But nevertheless, it's a nice clip. It's definitely the easiest one to snap onto your line, and it's the most versatile in terms of being able to lock down, or they both lock down, but lock on the line or set it to release. So that's the OR18 black snapper release. Super nice. The newer one, I think, was not created by Offshore Tackle, but they bought it, is the OR39 Sam's Pro release, originally made by Silverhorde, but Offshore Tackle now carries it. Now, this is a Crazy Wolf knockoff planer board. I'll do a review of these compared to the Offshore later. The thesis statement is I don't like them. They're garbage. They're not garbage, but they're not nearly as nice as an Offshore. They don't track as well. And I actually have another pair of Offshores coming to replace this one. But Sam's Pro release has basically a clip here that you wrap your line around, and it's a very solid way for it to trip, and you can adjust the tension, and then when there's a fish on, this will trip when you want it to trip. So you give it a good sharp pull, and this trips, lets go of your line, and then the board is released. I should have mentioned this earlier, that the OR18 also has a screw to adjust the tension in a similar way, so you can really dial that in for the lines that you're using. So this one, I think, is the most consistent in terms of tripping. You can set the tension. It's always going to have a nice, solid mechanical trip. You don't ever have to replace pads. It's really a great design. The biggest disadvantage that I can tell is that it is more complicated to rig up. And so here's the pattern that I've done to make sure it trips every time. This is my line is going out. Here's the lure end of your line. And I am going to put the line in the back one first, behind the pin. And then coming up from under, I'm going to do five wraps on this. 1, 2, oops, there we go, 1. It's easier on the water. I have a camera in front of me and my glasses aren't on. 3, 4, 5. Then you push it down and it's locked in. And that's pretty solid. Now, what I've gotten into is a habit. There's a wrong way to do this and then it doesn't trip. So what I'll do is I'll do it once and then make sure it trips, and it does, and you're in business. Now, this is definitely the most consistent in terms of tripping, holds onto your line until you want it to trip. But again, if you've got other people on the boat, this is a harder one to explain to people how to use. So if you're the guy who's always setting it up and you want a really solid mechanical trip, you're pulling really big crankbaits or heavy inline sinkers or something like this, this is probably the release you'll want to go to. And especially if you are one who never wants the board to hang on to your line, this is also a good one. It's not as versatile as the OR18 that you can differentiate between tripping the board or hanging onto the line. But you're never going to have pads to replace, and you're never going to, rarely you're going to have it, the line slip out of the pads because they wear out. So in my boat, I am torn. I just ordered 2 more of the Sam's Pro releases, so I'll have 4 of those and 2 of the OR18s, but I'm not sure if that was the right move because I get a lot of different people in my boat. And so I don't know if I want to explain this to people every time when I take them out when I need help. So if you have any other opinions on this in the comment, leave your thoughts in the comments or questions. There's definitely people out there who know more about this than I, but that's what I've learned so far, and I hope you found something in this video useful.